What's up? So I had to escape the high rise within the last couple days. Well, first I had to escape the cat house, which I already made a video of. And then I ended up at the high rise. And it has been like months or weeks that this dude has been like, you can come stay at my place. Nothing bad will happen to you there. And all that. And I've been like, yeah, sure, you know. But I had to leave the cat house in a rush, and I have a little bit of stuff because I decided that I was going to stay here for at least part of the winter. And oh, hang on a second. And so I started to collect stuff. I usually only carry like a couple backpacks or a backpack and like a sleeping bag or whatever. But because I'm going to be here for the winter and I really need the blankets and different stuff like that. And because I'm trying to find places to stay and things, well, I pretty much stopped using my tent. And it's wintertime here. It's super wintry. Yeah, it's like that. And I sleep with my hat on all night long, like every night. And so sometimes I wake up looking like this. Isn't it awesome? Anyways, so I had to escape from there. But at first, like the very first night that I was there, like when I took all my stuff there, I was sitting outside smoking, and the doofus who had invited me there, he was outside too, and he stood up and acted like we needed to walk together or something like that, like away from the building or whatever. And so I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, maybe I'm talking too loud, and maybe he's, noided out, because they're all like noided out, and they think that the lights are, they can't turn the lights on outside, or they can't talk too loud, or, nobody can catch them with company, or whatever the case is. Anyways, it's hella annoying, the weird paranoia and stuff like that, the paranoia issue that everybody has, which, at the time, he was just acting like that because he actually walked me out to the road so that my ex-boyfriend, who's one of the stalkers, who is part of a murder for hire campaign against me, and he has personally tried to execute me with his own hands before, potentially more than once. I'm going to have to make a video specifically about him and everything that he's done, since I don't really know who to tell. It doesn't seem to actually help for me to tell law enforcement anything. I am not sure how many reports I've actually made. And they all want to play with me about how, even though I just made the report to them, they're going to patch me through to somebody else to make the report to. And then that person's going to tell me to make the report to somebody else. And then and then it's just going to be this round and round thing. And I'll never actually get any reports made, or I'm going to call and have like major issues, and then the FBI is going to make fun of me, and you know what I mean? Like just different shit that I've had to put up with that I really don't want to fucking put up with. And that also the way to take and handle my situation would be to like take me inside, set me down at a table, allow me to sit there and draw the diagrams and, you know what I mean, whatever out for you, write everything down, like show you, like I'm going to have to show you visually because it's a really big situation. We're talking about, like all different kinds of little, parts and pieces, moving parts and pieces and players and all these different people in different places. Like I would have to write it down to show it to you. And I just but I can also tell you like this. So, and that might be the only thing that I can do, because I feel really uncomfortable going to law enforcement here. That's the whole reason why I drove over 400 miles away to try to get help from, the U.S. Marshals out in New York over what was happening here in Buckhannon, West Virginia, because I don't think that I can tell any law enforcement here because I think that they're all involved in a trafficking ring. And that's why they're not helping and never have. And they set people up and just do this. You know what I mean? Part of the reason why I'm in this situation is because, you know, part of the law is kind of doing this. But anyways, so I'm going to have to make like an entire video about everything that this dude has done and, you know, how he's a rapist and, you know, and all these attempted murder situations and stuff, and really lay it out there because, and really lay it out there for people because, he's out in the open, free. Everybody thinks that he must be an okay guy because he's not locked up yet. He's not an okay guy. You know, I've had to correct people about being friends with him just within the last week and be like, he's not okay. He's a rapist. He sets women up to get raped. You know what I mean? In his apartment. That's not a cool guy. I don't care what he has for you. I don't care if that's where you get some of your medical supplies or whatever. I don't care. He's a piece of shit. So anyways, the high-rise dude walks me out to the street where my ex-boyfriend rides in front of me for the first time and begins to taunt me and to try to intimidate me by riding by and staring me in the face. And this fucking Mark high-rise fucking dumbass set me up to where Tim could fucking ride around in front of me like a little bitch and try to, like, I guess that was supposed to be intimidating for him to ride by and look at me. Oh my God, someone's riding by looking at me. I'm so worried. So I'm like, okay, yawn. What a retard. Still stalking me, still to this day. Obsessed. Thanks. Oh, I wish somebody would get him off of me for real. Like, it's that bad. He literally followed me at least as far as New Mexico. That's pretty fucking far. That's a pretty good distance away from West Virginia to be hovering outside of a domestic violence shelter waiting for someone to walk outside. Yeah, he was sitting there in a station wagon outside of the Taos domestic violence shelter. I guess they thought that I was just going to be accepted into the shelter under the circumstances, so they just sat out there and fucking lost track of what was going on and didn't realize wasn't accepted into the shelter. I was rejected. After they told me that my situation that I could get in because of my situation, they were like, oh yeah, we'll definitely let you in. Give us your name. And then they would find out my name and they would come out and tell me that I wasn't allowed in the shelter. And I've never been in a domestic violence shelter to make it to where I shouldn't be allowed to be in a domestic violence shelter. I did turn down the first domestic violence shelter that was offered to me in this situation after the women were slain and, after I ran to New York and everything. However, after I had fully, recovered from amnesia, I did really need to be in a domestic violence shelter, potentially even before then. By the time that sheriff took us to the domestic violence shelter in Taos, that was when we really needed to be in a domestic violence shelter. That would have been a just fine time. And they wouldn't let us in. And then 5 other times I tried domestic violence shelters throughout the United States. They wouldn't let me in either. And part of the reason why they don't let me in is because if I were to get help from a domestic violence shelter, then the situation would make it to where, like, I would potentially be able to get my kid back. But because they wanted my kid to be taken away like this, they made sure that I would not be able to get help from a domestic violence shelter and that I would remain on the streets and not get any help, and that people would continue to track me down and stuff. So at the end of all this, all of the domestic violence shelters who turned me away are going to face lawsuits. And I hope to own them all at the end of that. There's one in Liberal, Kansas. I want that. There's one in Taos, New Mexico. I'll be taking that as well. And I'll make it to where women and children actually can get help, instead of just being pushed out on the streets to be followed around and poisoned and worse. Exploited online. They have cameras everywhere I go, hidden cameras in all the rooms and everywhere that I go. It's horrible. And they are uploading me to the internet everywhere I go. And that's just allowed. These people are allowed to hack my device, steal photos and videos of me and sell them everyone just allows it. And there's no telling how many people this is being done to, honestly. Like, people can hack into your stuff, take your photos and videos, and sell them to people worldwide. And they do it all the time. People here can literally sell you to people in other countries, and those people from other countries pay to have you monitored, stalked, hurt, all that. You can be a slave right here to somebody in a whole other nation and then pay the people around you to do heinous things to you. That is part of my situation. But anyways, so he walked me out so that I would be stalked and basically... what is the word that I'm looking for? Hang on. I was about to say patronized by Tim, basically. So he walked me out there so that my ex-boyfriend could ride by me and try to intimidate me. And then he walked me back up to, the apartment. Well, right then I knew that he was involved with him. You know what I mean? If you're going to walk me out to the road so that my ex-boyfriend can harass me, it's obvious that you're working with my ex-boyfriend, dumbass, which is the fucking entire issue that I've had this whole time, is that people work with my family or they work with my ex-boyfriend. Well, my ex-boyfriend works for my family, so it's the same thing. They pay him and sent him money. My grandma paid him to unalive me one time, and he tried his hardest. I'll tell you that much. So anyways... this guy at the high rise, I really did not want to stay there, but it was like the next only place. Like, they set things up, and this is part of this human trafficking thing, is they set things up all the time, and they'll use the whole community to do this, because I know people throughout the entire community, but they'll set things up to where, like, I'll have to leave one place, and they want to set it up to where I leave when they're scheduled for me to leave, but sometimes I leave before then. And they set things up to where when I leave from one place, there will only be one other place for me to go to. That there'll be only one other, like, available place or whatever. Everybody else stops answering the phone and stops replying to messages and stuff all of a sudden when they're trying to get me to go to that one other place. So it is kind of like an entrapment thing, but it's part of a human trafficking thing. So it's like, all of a sudden, if I don't want to freeze to death out here, you know what I mean? As the temperature drops and the snow was falling like this and there's nowhere to go indoors anymore. Oh, except for Sheets on the other side. If I want to walk to Sheets on the other side of town, I'll have a place to go sit inside. But they set it up to where there's only one place to go, one right after the other, so that they can specially keep track of and, concentrate on how they're going to fucking abuse me or have me harassed or humiliated from place to place or poisoned or all these different things that they do. And I've survived a lot. So it's really irritating to still be out here going through this as a civilian who has survived so much for my entire life, and especially over these last several years of being trafficked, but the few years of being trafficked out here on the streets, all over the U.S., and then returning back to the very same town where I've been trafficked basically my whole life. Only, you know what I mean? It's a little bit different now that I don't have kids and I don't have my own place. Now I'm subject to the same thing that these other homeless women who are bouncing from place to place are dealing with. Only a lot of the women around here, they got mommies and daddies and grandmas and aunts and uncles and family or storage units. They got places to hoard all of their stuff and keep their stuff and, family to go back to and ask for help and shit like that. I do have one person who is like a friend of my family type thing, or used to be, or something. A couple of them, the one I do ask for help sometimes, but it's really uncomfortable because he is one of the bad guys in my situation and he's reluctant to help. You know what I mean? Like, he definitely does not want to help. So by the time I go asking him for help, there's a 50-50 chance he could just fucking ignore what I'm asking him. You know what I mean? He definitely does not want to fucking help. So anyways, There's a lot of chicks who do carry their stuff around from place to place to place because they really don't have anywhere to put it. But that's not generally what's going on here, because this is such a tight knit community. And there are just so many hillbillies. There's just so many people in poverty and people who genuinely need each other's help, that the doors are just a little bit more open here, and people are just a little bit more cordial to each other. And especially if you're somebody who kind of is able to fit in around here a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier. But so anyways, I stayed there for about 4 or 5 days, I think, maybe even 5 or 6 days. I made a little pallet on the floor with my blankets and stuff, and it seemed and felt very awkward. The guy, like, I didn't realize the kind of habits that he had. Like, I knew that he had some kind of habits, but I didn't realize like how severe his problem was. But he was like, I guess, taking something at night that was making him nod off or whatever. I don't know. But he basically nodded off so bad. Like, I don't have anything to do with it, you know, what these people do in their bathrooms or whatever, or what they try to keep hidden or secret or whatever. But this dude apparently fucked himself up so bad. Like, I guess he was standing in his bathroom and he was smoking something or doing something, and he ended up collapsing, and he collapsed. And I guess he hit his face against his sink, and he had glasses on and stuff, and he busted his glasses all in his fucking eyes and face, and there was blood all over the place. And I don't know, it sounded like he fell on the floor. I didn't go check on him or anything. I was just like, I'm just gonna, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm just gonna assume that whatever's happening in there happens all the time and just, you know what I mean, ignore it. But there's blood everywhere. His glasses, I guess they were ruined. I don't know. There was blood all over his clothes, all over this towel in there. And so whatever he did, he really messed himself up somehow. But I began to see that pattern where this guy would be like all day long, like acting like he's too sped up all day, to where and he's like eating himself. He's literally eating chunks out of his hand. You know what I mean? He's eating chunks out of his arm. He's eating them. Eating himself. You literally walk up to him and he's like, and he's fucking eating parts of his flesh to where you can see chunks, red, open chunks of flesh, like open all over him, to where it's past picking. He's literally cannibalizing his own body. His nerves are just so shot, and he's just so, you know, he's like this all the time. And so like, then like he is on his phone, he drops everything, runs to the bathroom and starts to shave. I guess he's like dry shaving, and he shaves so fast that he's just like bleeding all over the place. And then he runs back to his chair, and he's taking pictures of himself. And I guess, and then I end up seeing him on Facebook dating, where he sent me like this friend thing on Facebook dating. Like, did he not does he not realize that it's me? Like, and the whole time he hasn't tried to be friends on Facebook. And this is another thing that people will do is I'll start hanging out with somebody and they won't become friends with me on Facebook. They'll just give me their number, because they're going to act like they don't know about me having a Facebook. They're going to act like they didn't even think about being Facebook friends or whatever, because everyone knows that I run my mouth about what's going on Facebook. So they all do this thing where they act like they didn't see me on there. Oh, they didn't see my friend request. They don't know how to get to that part. And they don't even have a Facebook page and all this, or they can't respond to my friend request. That might be just an old profile. It's just crap. And anyways, yeah, they want to all pretend that they're not watching, but they have been. They've been watching, some of them potentially for years. They've been watching and keeping up with what I've said on there, as they've been waiting for me to die. So there's plenty of people, they'll even have me on ignore on Facebook, to where they can act like they don't use it. They're not focused on my page, that they don't ever look at it. I'm pretty sure they all look at and hover and monitor over my page. And there's actually this field underneath everything. It says friend suggestions or something. Whenever you're scrolling through your feed and everything, those little pictures that come up that say friend suggestion, those are there because those are the people who looked at your profile. A trafficker had to teach me that those, whenever you see those people, it's not just by chance. It's not just coming up there by chance that those people are, you know what I mean? Those suggestions are coming up because those are people who are looking at your profile. So when you guys see people on there and you're like, oh, I remember that person. It's just so random I would see them there, and you send them a request and you think that it was your idea because you just saw them at random. No, they've been hovering over and stalking your page. That's why you're seeing them come up on that suggestion field. So anyways, so what happens is the first snow begins to roll around. And for the first time all winter, it's going to get cold. And this particular night, it begins to get cold at about 3:30 in the afternoon. And that's when I really feel the temperature drop. And I'm like, oh, it's going to get really cold this evening. And I'm like, you know, it's supposed to snow. It says that it's going to snow tomorrow. But I was like, with as cold as it just got right now, I'll bet that it's going to start snowing tonight at about 9 or 10 o'clock. And so, you know, I was just glad to be indoors. I was glad to have, you know what I mean, my little spot, you know, be right by this heater and stuff. And that I wasn't going to, that hopefully I would be able to, you know, survive there another day or three before I would have to leave because of the, you know, weather and everything. But what the guy does is he says, there's this guy who wants to come over and talk to me for a couple hours. He was like, he's going to be here from 8 o'clock until about 11. And we really need our privacy. And but you can come over after 11. And what it is that he bangs out prostitutes. He does drugs and bangs out prostitutes, basically, which is what every single one of these people do who's in this trafficking ring across the entire nation. But here in Buckhannon, obviously, it's the same thing. And it's the same thing in every town across the entire United States, that they're going to need you to leave so that they can sleep with a fucking prostitute, so that they can pay a prostitute in the drugs that they're able to afford with their Social Security checks. And that's what he was really, you know what I mean? But he couldn't just stop at 4 hours, of course. Well, what it was, what it is that everybody knew that it was about to be the first snow and the first storm of the season. And so they set me up to be outside during that. And because he told me that I would be able to come back in at 11, and I was like, it might be midnight or whatever. And I even left an hour early. So I left at 7 to give him that extra time because he was acting like real weird and putting off really weird energy and just grunting around and acting really weird, like I needed to leave right away and stuff. Even though he told me to leave at 8, he acted like I had to leave right away, right then. Grunting and stuff. And like, here I am getting my stuff ready. I'm getting ready. And he's like walking around the room, grunting and putting off all this energy and throwing stuff around and being weird and shit. I'm like, okay, this guy's like super hard up to fucking get laid or whatever. He's obsessed to whatever. I got to get the fuck out of here. So of course, like, I go out, I'm able to hang out up inside one place, but the person and he's even like, well, where are you going to go? You got somewhere to go? And I was like, yeah, I'll just walk over here to the trailer park. Well, he was like, okay, snicker. So then they set it up to where no one at the trailer park answered for me. And that the only person who probably would have answered for me at the trailer park, they invited him to dinner at some other area of town, and he was gone. So like I went and hung out in the woods for like an hour and a half, and I began to realize like it's way too cold. It's only going to get colder than this. Like I can't hang out outside anymore. I have to go back in somehow. I have to get in somewhere somehow. So I asked the first person who I hung out with if I could go back to his house, even though that's weird. And he let me go hang out there until about 10:30. And then I left from there, and I ended up walking around. I think that I went into a gambling room for a little bit, but it was a Sunday night. So the gambling room closed early at like midnight, I think is when they close on Sundays or something like that, 11 or midnight or something. And so I couldn't be in this. And then they locked the store up, which I thought that store was open all night, but I guess it's not. Or I thought it was open until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but I guess it isn't, or especially on a Sunday night. And now I could have walked to Sheetz, But I thought that I would only need to hang out until like 11 o'clock and that I would be let back into the house. So I didn't want to walk to Sheets and then have to walk back. You know what I mean? So I just tried to hang out around there until 11. Well, 11 o'clock rolls around. He, of course, doesn't say anything for me to be coming back. It turns to be almost midnight. And at this point, at about 11, it actually does start snowing. And I mean, it starts snowing big snowflakes. It turns from this weird drizzly rain shit that we've had to deal with for days, the sleet rain thing, freezing rain, to it turns into these snowflakes for the first time in the season. And in a situation where that could have been cool to witness the first snow of the season here in Buckhannon, West Virginia in 2025, it could have been cool, but people made it like a fucking shitty event. You know, for everybody to all work together at the same time to make sure that I'm locked outside during, you know, the first snowstorm or whatever. It's not like I'm going to die. You know what I mean? But I did end up, my feet actually did end up getting wet at one point. That snow ended up actually falling on me so much that it was covering the tops of my shoes and actually began to leak through my fabric shoes. Like, I wasn't actually, he deliberately told me, you know, he deliberately made it to where I would be unprepared. If I knew that I was going to be walking around after 11 or midnight on the streets of Buckhannon with, you know what I mean, while it's beginning to snow and fucking rain, you know, I would have at least put on a couple more pairs of socks or something like that. Like, I could have gotten prepared. I have other clothes. I had sweatpants I could have brought with me to put on over my jeans. You know, I'm pretty survival minded. I've got incredible survival skills and I know how to dress for winter weather. And things were deliberately set up to where I would not be prepared for being locked out all night during the first winter storm of this, you know, of the season, of the year. And basically, I came to the only place that I could come to at the time. I mean, there ended up at about midnight or so, 11 or so, there ended up being another place that opened up, but the bathroom situation there is funny and I didn't want to risk it. So I just felt like it would be too uncomfortable. So I just came here so that I would have access to a bathroom and stuff. And yeah, I texted him. I was like, "What's up? You know what I mean? Like, are you gonna let me back in now and stuff?" He was not interested in letting me back in. And the next morning, I hit him up and was like, "Hey, are you alive?" He didn't want to answer that. And then finally, somewhere in the afternoon, he answered me and I said, "Hey, can I come get some of my food and stuff?" And then he tried to say, "Oh, well, someone said something about you being here at the high rise. So I can't have you come until after 6 because we don't want the front door people to see you." And it's like, well, you locked me outside all night in the snow deliberately, so people are definitely going to find out that I was here. And when you invited me here, you told me that I was going to have to sign some paperwork shit on the front, which would allow me a 2-week stay here. I was never trying to hide the fact that I was here because I can get permission to stay here for 2 weeks, which is no fucking problem. I don't care that people know that I'm here. It's really irritating when people live in buildings like that or situations like that where they use their whatever as excuses. They use their management and their surroundings and the rules of the apartment complex to manipulate other people when they themselves don't care about the rules of the apartment complex. They smoke meth and heroin and fucking all kinds of shit and fucking overdose on it in their bathrooms and fuck hookers. They don't care about fucking rules or who sees that people come in and out of their fucking apartments. They have hella whores coming in and out of their apartments. No one gives a single fuck. No one fucking talks about it. The only people who are going to fucking talk about it is a few old ladies who were up front. And obviously the guy's been going strong fucking these hookers and doing dope in his fucking apartment this entire time. And nobody's fucking got onto him yet. So I'm pretty sure what I'm telling you is fucking valid. Right. So he sets me up again to have to be outside. So, and you know, the second night it's been storming the whole time. You know what I mean? So by last night, whenever I actually was able to go get my stuff, I at first did not have a ride. All of a sudden, you know, he he says, well, I can only let you come get your stuff after 6 p.m., which means that if I don't have a ride, I'm going to be stuck walking in the fucking cold while the clothes that I need to deal with the winter weather are in his apartment, you know. And here I am. I could get a ride from a few different people if it is during the day at a certain point, according to them. But after 6 o'clock, they all want to act like they couldn't help. So here I was with another set, like the very next day, here's another setup where none of the people with cars can help after 6 o'clock. And so I'm going to have to, if I want any of my stuff at all, I'm going to have to walk there in the dark, in the freezing ass fucking snow and ice to get some of my things to carry back here by myself. Like, they set this shit up all day, every day. This is the shit I've had to deal with my entire life. It's fucking trash. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be over at like 7 o'clock to get some of my stuff. And he's like, okay. And what they do is they get a hold of a trafficker a couple doors down from Cambridge Heights, somebody who I've never met before, but is obviously part of their trafficking ring. Pulls up to me in a Jeep while, like, I go outside, I'm walking down the hill, starting to walk to the high rise, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so cold. Like, I feel my leg, I literally can feel my, the front of my legs starting to go numb. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so cold out here. I was like, oh, I wish I had a ride. This is going to be so miserable. Like, I'm going to be numb before I get to the high rise. And then on my way back, I'm going to be carrying all this stuff. I was like, I'm going to have to get in there and put my sweatpants on as soon as I see them, you know, and, you know, put extra socks on and all this. Like, I was like, I'm going to be freezing. And then all of a sudden this Jeep that I've never seen before rolls up and he's like, hey, do you need a ride? And first of all, the people who live down this particular road, they don't want to stop and pick up pedestrians at all. They're not going to do that. No, they're not. I lived here by myself for well over a year. I walked back and forth by myself all the time. No one ever tried to give me a ride. Okay. So that dude knew that I was going to be walking along the road right before 7 or about 7. He knew that I was going to need to go get my stuff. And, I think that they behind the scenes worked it out with that dude to pick me up while I was walking, then take me to the high rise. And, then I would go up and I would end up getting all of my stuff out of there in a Walmart basket. And that would be brought down. And, of course, to see all my stuff in a Walmart being brought down in a Walmart basket made me look way more hobo-y than, you know what I mean, was required. And the guy acted like all uncomfortable and shit, seeing it brought down in the basket. But everybody uses those Walmart baskets to take large amounts of stuff in and out, and their garbage and all kinds of stuff. So it is so offensive when people see your stuff in a Walmart basket and they freak out and they're like, oh my God, how am I going to get that basket in my car and all this? You wouldn't believe how stupid people act when they see stuff in a basket. But yeah, the guy acted like he was really excited to meet me and stuff like that when he first picked me up. And that, you know, he was even talking about how he was interested in having me cook for him and different things. But as soon as he saw my stuff be brought down in the basket by the Mark dude at the fucking high rise, then the dude was like all freaked out acting and stuff. Like he didn't get it. You know what I mean? But that's fine because most people don't get it. I can't expect anyone to get it. So then now that dude's acting all scared and like dropping me back off at the one place that said that I could stay here for a few days. Well, another place said so too, but this is, like I said, I thought it would be a little bit more comfortable here. So yeah, and I guess that Mark dude thought that I wasn't going to get everything all at once because he was like, what, you're getting it all now? Like, because I was just like, can I just come get some of my food and stuff? I didn't tell him that I was getting everything because yeah, dude, if you're going to set me up to get locked outside in the snow, that's a big deal. And I'm not sure if I don't think I mentioned it, but my feet actually did get wet in my crappy ass. So these are the shoes that I already stopped wearing. Like I already bought another pair of shoes. So these were my crappy shoes I was wearing. that ended up getting like snowed on. And I think that I stepped in a little bit of a puddle at first. I was like, oh crap, I can't do that because I'm still going to be out here for a couple more hours. And that was like at 8 or 9 o'clock. And I just got a little bit into a puddle that I didn't see very well because it was dark and I was on my phone being a dork and stuff. And then at some other point, it actually started to snow so hard that snow covered my shoes and was seeping into the tops of my shoes. Like there was no way to like move it off there fast enough. It was just like any heat coming up out of these shoes was just melting that snow right into my, right onto my feet. And it made it to where, I wear these crappy little single layer little sockies and stuff like that. And it made it to where the whole front of my socks, my crappy little single layer socks that I had on that night, that it had gotten wet, and I start to realize, oh, my toe is wet. My toe is actually freezing. My shoes are starting to freeze to the ground as I walk. Like the temperature has dropped that low. And I'm like, crap. Like, and I'm not going to let myself freeze to death. I will set something on fire before I freeze to death. I'm a firebug. I'm an excellent fire starter. I know how to not, freeze to death, I guess. But I have almost freeze to death. I have almost frozen to death several different times in my life. But I felt my toes going numb. My little toes were all wet and stuff, and I felt them going numb. And one especially was like really bad to where it was like, oh shit, my toe isn't really moving. You know what I mean? I was like, and it all happened so fast, which is what people knew was going to happen. And I've seen it happen a million times. That was the expectation, was that the temperature was just going to drop so fast and it was going to be so moist that, I hate using that word, that things were going to freeze up really fast, and it was going to be a really uncomfortable situation. And that if I wasn't really careful about how I went about things, that, and if you're not very careful in that situation about how you respond to the situation, you could end up losing a toe. You know what I mean? You could end up losing something. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. But it's not going to happen to me, hopefully. Jeez. But I actually did have to stop what I was doing and open my backpack, and I should have just taken my sock off, but I ended up taking this bag out of my backpack and putting my into that bag. I took everything out of the bag and I put my foot into the bag. And then I put that into my shoe, and I was able to keep my foot just, a little layer warmer. And this is like some fleece material and stuff. So it really worked out. But I was able to cover my foot for just another 5 to 7 minute walk, 10-minute walk or whatever that I had from that point forward to go to the very next place that was available. You know what I mean? And, I was lucky that I had that bag in my stuff, because I'm not going to say that I would have lost my toe, but definitely frostbite was already setting in, and it was a problem. And, it might seem like a little story and kind of insignificant, but it isn't. Could you imagine somebody doing that to a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old deliberately? Could you imagine them doing it to your mom deliberately, just to be abusive and thinking that that's funny, to lock her outside for the first freeze and the first early snow? I mean, it was a nighttime freeze, an immediate night freeze and snow that was expected. And they made sure that I was locked out of the place where I had been staying all week, just for that snow, just for the storm. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine somebody doing that to one of your adult kids or one of your brothers and sisters? Is there any way? Could you imagine somebody doing this to a dog or a cat? Is there any way that I can get you to have some kind of empathy with the situation. I don't know how to get people to find empathy or to be empathetic. I'm naturally empathetic. I'm not sure what the fuck to say to you guys to get anyone to care about my situation. So yeah, he thought that, because no one could give me a ride, because everyone's told, don't help her, don't give her a ride, tell her you can't help her or whatever. He thought that my stuff was just going to stay there and that I was going to have to spend the next 4 or 5 days going back. Excuse me. That I was going to have to spend the next 4 or 5, 6 days or whatever, going back every night after 6 o'clock in the cold, walking there at night, going and getting some of my stuff, walking it back slowly. And you know what I mean? I probably wouldn't even had everything back here by the time that I'm going to be ready to leave here. You know what I mean? And so I'd have all of my stuff now and nowhere to, it's just ridiculous. And another way that I can tell that everybody's super controlling of this situation is because back in the day when they weren't doing this like they are now, there were a lot of people to interact with. There were lots of different places. There were lots of different options. There were lots of different people. Now everything is really, really controlled. Even if I'm using Facebook dating or talking to people or whatever, everything is it's all set up to where like I can only talk to like one person at a time or whatever. There's only one option at a time. And so it's just moving from one place to place to place the way that they set me up to, the way that someone else sets me up to move about. And I just have to go with it. And this is what I've had to deal with and live with for over 3.5 years out here. Like I started out after I fled from here, I had a little boy with me who I, kept and ran from bad guys with, and, tried to protect to the best of my ability. And then they caught up with us and took him away. The bad guys drove us out of here and they caught up to us and they took him away. And now I'm back where we all started. And even the older kids are here, but the littlest kid isn't. He's across the country where we were chased to so that my family, where we were chased to by my family so that my family could have him. And they've successfully, fraudulently, and illegally adopted the kid. And there's no telling what's happening now. Yeah, everybody just decided that they were going to get on that train and help them. So that's been really cool. I made a mistake the other day whenever I was saying that everybody that I knew who had their kids taken away by CPS deserved it. I'm going to have to make a video to be more specific about that. The only reason why that is my situation is because you guys have me surrounded by drug addicts and prostitutes and witches and evil people who actually do perform satanic ritual abuses and various abuses against their children, and they neglect them and do all kinds of stuff. And that's been in my situation from my point of view as a victim, as somebody that you guys have kept held hostage basically and victimized and only surrounded by perpetrators and bad guys and rapists and child molesters and stuff. Well, because that's all you surrounded me with, those are the only people whose kids I've seen be taken. I've never seen someone like me who was innocent, whose children were taken, but I know that it does happen and that that's what the CYFD system is doing. I'm completely against child protective services. I think that even in situations where we show up and we see that a kid's been locked in a cage and stuff like that, and we need CPS to save them. How do we know that that situation wasn't set up for CPS to come save them so that CPS can now traffic the kid? You know what I mean? Like, people need to think this through a little bit better because you've turned your little system into a cash for kids trade fucking system, and you're selling them and you're trafficking the parents and the kids. It's really bad. It completely needs redone. So I'm going to have to make a video about that. And then I'm going to have to make a video about Tim, for all the reasons that he needs to be put in prison. And it's got to be a public video because the guy has been able to recruit all of these people this entire time, and it needs to be public for people to know who he is, what he's done, the things that he's going to ask you to do, and just how vile he is. And that none of you are safe. up in his place like it's bad. There's an extra room behind his room that he doesn't let people know about. He goes outside and can go around and go upstairs and have access to watch you in that room. He can literally wait until you're asleep and let anyone he wants in that room without anyone seeing them walk into the front of the house. There could already be people up there in that extra room behind his room watching everything that's happening in there. I mean, it could be loaded with cops, feds, military. You never know. Your worst enemies, somebody who's planning on getting you pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, this is some weird fucked up shit that they're doing, and he will not stop stalking me. It's horrible. He had this Mark dude do that shit. You know, they all set it up to where I would be like locked outside like this, or like I was. It was a pretty fucked up situation because sure, you can survive the cold. You know, we're seasoned woodland creatures. We're Appalachian mountaineers out here. We're used to snowy season, especially in the wintertime. Like, we can handle some snow. We're good at that. But in this particular event, the way that this happened, they deliberately set it up to be nasty. And then the guy wanted to ignore me, not respond to me, and basically withhold my stuff from me. And I was at this apartment where, and of course, nobody got their food stamps, and these people just moved in here. They just moved in from a place that was already hard, and then she didn't get her food stamps. So it was like what we had here was like some beans and potatoes, which I did put on the crock pot last night, and they are ready this morning, and they are dank, but that took me soaking them all day and then starting them last night for them to be ready this morning. It wasn't just like a quick process, but I did have food at Dum Dum's apartment up on, up in the high rise. I had $100 worth of military MREs. I've got a box of, canned food and all kinds of, the resources that I have gathered. I've got, $120 worth of food up there in the high rise that if I had it here, if the dude would let me bring it over here, I could make a pretty dank ass lunch, dinner, whatever. We would be fine. Even if we didn't get our food stamps back for a while. I was like, if you guys are willing to let me stay here for a second, I will clean, I will cook, that sort of thing. Because I'm not really going to be entertaining in any other way. And I don't really do what other people do, and we don't share the same interests. So it's really just them having mercy on me in some way, or, or seemingly having mercy on me or whatever, me trying to show appreciation for that. But also, we all got to eat, and I just so happen to be really good at cooking, providing it. And I can cook low budget. Like, the meal that I just made that could probably feed 10 people right now, it costs less than $2. You want to see it? Here, for all you little crybabies upset that you don't have food stamps, this is a $2 stew. It has beans. It has potatoes. It's dank. So dank. Dankest beans you'll ever have in your whole life. We don't have to be whiny bitches if people don't give us money or help or whatever. We can be resourceful. We're resourceful people. We're humans. You know what I mean? We can... I'm a survivor. I'm not going to let you guys make a fucking bitch of me. It's fucking highly annoying. So yeah, he locked me outside during the snowstorm, and then he ignored me and made sure that the only time I would be able to come back was also at night when it's fucking cold, and that I was not able to get the food that I needed that morning and afternoon. So technically withheld my things from me, making some dumbass excuse that the people up front were gonna somehow see me and care, I'm going to definitely let your shitty apartment complex know what you did. So they're definitely going to know that I was there. Yeah, if you lock a chick out in the snow at night like a fucking piece of shit, people are going to find out about it. They might not have found out about it if it was somebody else, you know what I mean? If somebody's just like, oh yeah, I'm sure it was an accident, or he just got too involved fucking the shit out of somebody up there on drugs or whatever, or he must have nodded off. No, he's a fucking piece of shit who works with little Timmy Pooh's bitch ass and all the other motherfuckers, and they set that shit up for me to get fucking locked outside. It's fucked up. And I've actually seen videos on YouTube where like people get in trouble for doing that to people. Like I've seen it to where like people are arrested and have to fucking do time for doing that shit to each other. Like there was this one dude who locked his pregnant girlfriend out in the snow outside for views, and because they were getting views by hurting each other, and he left her there and she froze to death and died. And that was totally what this reminded me of. And realistically, like if I had been drinking, or if I had been somebody who used and had been up for days, I might have thought that I could just walk around and tough it out. You know what I mean? If I'd had a tent set up somewhere with some blankets in it, I might have just thought I could go, I might have just gone and tried to hang out in the tent or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if it was under different circumstances, if I'd have been a little bit more messed up and a little less prepared, I could have potentially gotten hurt. You know what I mean? There could have actually been something that happened to me that evening. But anyways, I'm not going to milk it that much. I'm just going to say that it really sucked. And I actually could have, even though I was really quick, I actually could have potentially, like, if I had to walk all the way to Sheetz, I'm not sure that I wouldn't have had like some kind of, and I definitely did suffer from some kind of frostbite shit. Cause like feeling my toes, I've been feeling that toe for the last couple of days, and it is kind of numb, but I know that it's fine and it's going to be fine and that I'm fine. You know, it's just it's the principle behind the matter. It's the intentions behind the matter. It's the deviancy behind the matter. It's just how, you know, these dudes can sit around and work together to be destructive and manipulative and abusive to one woman, and they'll all be in on it. And he's been able to get these guys and girls and all these people to go in with him with this fucking bullying campaign shit. And I'm not sure that they realize like he's going to prison for what he's done. And the more people that he involves, they will go right to prison right along with him. Like basically everyone who worked with my family and this dude, I realize that everyone thinks that they're just going to get away scot-free with everything that they've done. They're going the fuck to prison, dude. If you guys want to continue to get involved with the retard, you can go the fuck to prison with him. He's a fucking rapist bitch. You know, he's fucking involved in child sex trafficking. It's fucking serious business. So if you guys all want your fucking faces to be up there with Tim's getting busted in a child sex trafficking ring, be my guest, retards, because I'm going to fucking get some Guinness Book of fucking World Record shit for how many of you fucking retarded sex trafficking bitches that I fucking end up busting in one sitting. Fucking retarded trash. Yeah, the dude's going to be nodding off on fucking fentanyl and heroin and shit, busting his glasses into his face, fucking bleeding all over the fucking place, eating his fucking hands, eating himself. Fucking hookers, making up all kinds of shit, trying to triangulate this Melissa bitch against me, trying to act like I hang out with her husband. I haven't seen her or her husband in over 15 years. Yeah, they've been trying to get this Melissa girl sicked on me, or they've been trying to sick Melissa on me. I have not fucking seen this bitch in over 15 fucking years. She obviously doesn't realize that she's being manipulated, because like I'll go somewhere and she'll call and be like, oh my God, is that LaDana girl sitting there with my husband? She can't even say my name. She doesn't even know who the fuck I am. And they do this shit to me everywhere I go, all across the fucking United States. It's fucking highly annoying. So I'm going to be uploading this video, and then I'm going to be making videos about the shit I said I was going to be making videos about, and those need to be fucking uploaded very quickly too. As for where I am now in this situation, I'm not sure if I'm going to have to leave today, tomorrow, the next day. I have no fucking idea what's going to happen. I have no fucking idea where the fuck to go after this. And that's the same way that I felt in the last place, and the time before that, and the place before that, and the place before that. And at this point, I've been in 1,000 homes. Thousands. It feels like I've been in 1,000 homes at this point, that I've been trafficked through 1,000 places. You know what I mean? And I used to be in this very complex where I was by myself for over a year. And I had dreams. I was always having these dreams that I was in different bathrooms and different apartment complexes. And while I lay here and dream, I dream of being in 1,000 different places. And I always wondered, why am I dreaming about all those places when I've been isolated? These people have isolated me my entire life to these Section 8, ghettos. And how and why is it that I'm dreaming of all these different new places? And the weird thing is that I would be pushed out and trafficked across the US, and I would end up in 1,000 different places and 1,000 different bathrooms and 1,000 different houses. And it was like those weird dreams of going to all those different places kind of came true. Yeah, but anyways, I just wanted to give an update to anybody who cares. And I also don't know how long people are planning on keeping me out here. So this As I Go is kind of like a video diary journal thing. And also to kind of help prove my case, since apparently people haven't figured it out yet, and they want to act like it's a case, and that they, maybe they don't have enough evidence to solve something. I'm not sure whether I believe that or not. It sounds like BS to me. But anyways, I'm just going to continue to log things as I go. And I would normally not tell everybody while I was in the same town. I would normally not make videos about where I was going and what just happened at the last place that I was. But because I do know this town a little bit, that is what I'm going to do. I actually do feel comfortable and called to go ahead and let people know as I leave from place to place. And I may not do that in every place, but definitely if it's a place that I have to leave for terrible reasons, I will be making a video and explaining what you guys did, because it is very deliberate. I'm really tired of this, and you guys are fucking sex traffickers, and you're really part of a child trafficking ring that I was victimized by as a kid. And you didn't plan for me to still be alive. So here I am alive. I can list off names of guys right here in this town who sleep with 11-year-olds. They sleep with 12 and 13 and 14 and 15-year-olds. They sleep with little kids. 11 is pretty young to be making out with, dude. 11's pretty young to be setting your stepdaughter up to get made out with by every single guy that you know. Just saying. And I also don't appreciate that you guys watch my stuff as heavily as you do, and that you don't admit that. And anyways, it's just complete trash. And I was referring to certain people, but, because all these people are able to do all this shitty stuff behind my back, but they can't admit that they're stalking me and watching all my videos and reading all my posts. And they can't admit that they ever did anything wrong in the past. They have no mercy for me, or for they have no regrets for anything that they've done. I'm not sure that their hearts even pump real blood. It might just be fucking Kool-Aid and shit. I, of course, as a very gifted psychic, can feel the vibes of the people who I've met throughout my life who are upset that I'm not dead yet, and that I know who they are. You know what I mean? And I know who their boyfriends are, because they were, and here I was at 13 years old, and they were reaching over and trying to, you know what I mean? And asking me if they could, asking me if we could do this and that. And you sure you don't want me to stop the car so that we could do this and that? Those people are still around today. And, they're trying to date you on Facebook, and they're trying to date your kids. You know what I mean? no one care. No one is willing to, I guess, take any of my reports seriously. I don't know. I haven't tried since I've been back here, but I'm honestly scared to death to try to go to any of these law enforcement agents here and fucking tell them anything, because whenever I really needed help, I went to them and was like, hey, I need to make this report because someone threatened to kill my kid, and they wouldn't take my report. They wouldn't even get out of the car. They're just like, oh, you're trying to get somebody in trouble. You need to go. And that was a pretty fucking important report that I needed to make. And I'm fucking traumatized to this day that I wasn't allowed to make that report here. And then I had to travel like just around the US and nobody cared. And like I couldn't make the report. And the people who I needed to make the report about followed me all around the US because I couldn't make the fucking report. I already made it. I already tried to make it in New York. And you know, nowhere that I try to make reports will they sit down and actually listen to the full report that I have to make. They just treat me like I'm fucking stupid and send me on my way. Oh, thanks. You know, and it's like, no, actually, it would take me 18 fucking days of sitting here with you to tell you everything that I need to tell you, dude. Thanks. All right. So anyways, that is what has gone on for the last week anyways. You know, and that's my last couple days of getting locked outside during the first snowstorm of the year by Mark, who I'm, I guess that's where I'm going to end it. I almost started to go into, suggesting that certain people might have been busted by that dude within the last month, but I'm, aside from saying that, I'm not going to say anything more about that part. And that dude is super fucked up. The Tim dude is super fucked up. The fact that these people are still up my ass and will not get the fuck off my dick is major. It's a major fucking problem. All right. Peace for now.